All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshua Haston. I work with LDG Multifamily. We are a for-profit affordable housing developer company, and we are here to talk to you tonight about a proposed development of the former Christopher Homes site in partnership with Hano. So thank you so much for joining tonight. Just a couple introductions. Miss Yvette Hester is head of Hano. She is on the call, as well as Emily May, who is project manager with Hano. We also have Chase Kane, my associate here. Ryan Flanagan of SEF Engineers. He is a local New Orleans civil engineer, as well as Michael Kochke and V. Tran of Volume Zero Architects, who are also local architects in New Orleans. So, and then also helping us out is Vadine Kaplan of Studio Way Architects. And so we've got Miss Jordan is John Jordan of Hano is also on, and Leslie Thomas of Hano is also on. They're all associated with this project and are helping us along the way. So again, thank you so much for joining. We're going to try to make the most of your time, and thank you so much for taking pride in your community. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and then we will go from there. Okay, 1 second. Okay. We'll just go like this. Thank you again, everyone. Again, my name is Joshua Haston with LDG, and we are here tonight to talk a little bit about our mission and our proposal for the Christopher Park site, what we're calling Christopher Park, and here to discuss some of the community benefits and hear your feedback as well with what we're proposing. So for those of you that were on the first community meeting, this is a similar presentation, but towards the end, we've got some renderings and some updates to get your feedback, kind of what we heard from the first meeting. So just real quickly, LDG, we have been around for 25 years now, and we believe and we focus every bit of our energy towards giving people a home, a quality home that we think everyone deserves. People should not be fighting in the streets for housing. They should have great quality housing provided for them. And so we try to do that in every development that we're a part of and every community that we're a part of across the Southeast. And in doing that, we work to create vibrant communities with the community's vision. Because we are an outsider per se, we want to make sure we're working in concert with the community to make sure that development is happening with them, not to them. And lastly, we want to make sure that we're creating long-term partnerships with the communities and neighbors, so we're in it for the long haul and not just building and flipping to an insurance company like most developers. So we are long-term community partners. Just a little bit more about us. We were established in 1994, and since then we have built over 12,000 units. In Louisiana, we have also developed the Muses, that is in New Orleans. It's on 740 Barone Street. If you're familiar with where St. Charles is, it's just behind Houston's on St. Charles. So we built that in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, and have never left Louisiana. We love the state very much. And we've since developed over 1,300 apartment units across southern Louisiana, most of which in Baton Rouge, but stretching all the way into Lafayette and Lake Charles. And then also, we're working at the same time, not only on this project, but also a redevelopment of part of the Florida project in District D. So we are very familiar with Louisiana, very familiar with New Orleans, and we want to continue building and working with the community here. So just a little bit more about this site to give you a little bit of context. This is just off Charles de Gaulle, between Wall Boulevard and Vespasian Boulevard. And then Merle Street forms the western border. And there's currently an unopened street, Caladium Lane, that forms the eastern border. So all this site is owned by Hano, and it is currently zoned for what we're proposing to redevelop. So just really quickly, again, we want to make sure we're improving the neighborhood. This is not just build this site, walk away, leave. We want to make sure that we are building something that's going to last for the long haul, that's going to improve the overall infrastructure of the neighborhood. So with this is a concept plan that we have kind of put together, and beyond just the concept plan, we're going to make sure that our development is dramatically improving a sidewalk infrastructure around the site, as well as improving stormwater resiliency. We know that New Orleans has a bit of a flooding problem, so we're trying to make sure that we're not making that any worse. We're going to improve the site dramatically from that aspect. And part of that is adding back tree canopy. There's currently no trees on the site. We know that trees are a good way to help with stormwater resiliency. So, and plus, who doesn't love a good live oak? So we love making sure that we have lots of trees on our sites. Beyond that, we want to make sure that we're creating a really safe community so that we are building in street and pedestrian lighting to make sure that everyone feels safe and walkable within the community. I mean, this works to improve vehicle and pedestrian traffic, as well as providing a wide variety of housing choices. So we know that Algiers has a lot of different neighborhoods, and we want to make sure that we're providing something new, something different, but also something that fits into the character of Algiers. So there's with this, we'll have a couple different types of housing, and we, even though the site is zoned, there's a potential for retail, so we can take your opinion on if you'd like retail or not. And then furthermore, we know that building a new development like this is going to bolster economic development in Algiers on the West Bank. So we're all about building stronger communities and connecting people with good jobs, both construction and permanent. So all these pictures that you've seen so far are taken from other developments that we have built. We build very high quality units. I mean, as you can see, we've got granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, the works. I mean, it's a very high quality unit. More than that, we also make sure that we have a business and community center. We have a fitness center. We have a community room, typically reserved for our tenants, but we also will open our community room up to neighborhood organizations if they want to have a meeting there, or just different festivities that New Orleans may want to work with. So our management company is very more than willing to work to make sure that the community is part of it and can use our community. Also, I'd like to mention that again, the site has the zoning to allow for commercial space. I should say it's not our preference, but we are open to providing some commercial space if the community wants it. Beyond that, we're going to make sure that we include green space inside the community. That includes a playground and a dog park, because most everyone loves dogs these days. And again, we're making sure that we have a very walkable, connected development. So that includes connecting itself to transit, because there are bus stops on either side of the development, and a potentially connection to relay bikes. It's just a few more pictures of sort of the quality that we build. In our master bathrooms for the units, we typically build a walk-in shower, very high quality, again, granite. This is a typical of our like secondary bathroom. It's more of a plastic tub, and then we typically have grill stations and whatnot, and also gems. So very luxurious. But it's not just about the amenities. We want to make sure that we're building a high quality unit all around that's good for the tenant and for the community. So a part of that, we make sure that we build everything to enterprise green community standards. That's a very high quality, sustainable standard. So that works on multiple fronts. Front one, that helps our tenants to have lower energy bills. You know that cost of electricity, energy is expensive, so we want to make sure that we're reducing our tenants' energy costs as much as possible. But also with this Energy Star standard or Enterprise Green standard, that's also making sure that we have a lot of, it's looking at the whole site to make sure that we have trees and to make sure that the stormwater is done to a very high standard. So it's a great thing that we're trying to do. Real quickly, this is a very tentative timeline. So right now, we're starting to go. It was summer when we started this community engagement process, but fast forward a couple months and a couple hurricanes later, we are now in the fall. So this is pushed back a little bit, but after we finish the community engagement process, we're going to start trying to receive permitting and potentially start building next year in late spring or summer. So this is a very tentative timeline and is extremely contingent upon financing and permit timeline. So with that, we want to make sure that we're also getting your feedback. So kind of, we wanted to see what the community wanted. For those that were on the first community meeting, this is the same slide that you saw the first community meeting. We wanted to show it again for people that maybe the newcomers to get their opinion as well. So at this time, what we would really love for you to do is to use the chat function of Zoom. And if you could type in your favorite 2 pictures that you like, that way we can adapt what we took from the first community meeting and go from there at the next community meeting to see if we got what you liked. So if you would just use the chat function. Let's see, how do we do that? We're going to give people about a minute to use the chat function.
So Joshua, this is Yvette. If you don't see what you like on here, can you put that in there as well as an option?
Absolutely, yeah. If you don't like any of these, just let us know, and we'll do our best to accommodate that. Okay, about another 30 seconds, and then we'll move on. So we've got a few people that have used the chat function.
Folks that don't want to call.
For people that are on a call, we'll take questions later, and so you can voice your preference at that time if you're not using the app. So okay, we'll wrap up in about 10 seconds, and then we'll move on to the next slide. All right. So thank you everyone for that. From this point, what we're going to do is just want to let you know that, again, we're recording this. We are going to make sure that this recording is posted to Hanno's website, and you will be able to offer your feedback there. We've got my email, I think, is posted on the website, so we can make sure that that is updated. on the next slide, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the chat function again, or actually, we're going to show you a couple renderings, and then we're going to open up the chat function. So once we get there, just absorb all the renderings, and we can, when we open up the chat function, we'll individually call on you, and we will take your question, and we can refer back to any of the renderings or just general comments at that time. So it appears that someone is marked on the screen, but so we've got just, I'm going to reference kind of things. Some people are not as familiar with looking at rendering, so I want to make sure that people can understand what we're looking at here. What we've tried to do is to build 3-story buildings. So these are all 3-story along the back side. They have or across the entire side, I'm sorry. And they all have what we tend to think at this point, a kind of New Orleans feel. So, I mean, that's your big porches that are overlooking. We've also tried to incorporate a green space throughout the property. So there's 3 green spaces along the property. So we're trying to be pretty efficient with it. So green space throughout the property, as well as 3-story buildings. And then to make sure that we are not just overrunning the site with density, as well as taking into account of the townhomes that are currently across the street, we thought that we would have townhomes along Merle. These would be 2-story townhomes that kind of blend in with the existing neighborhood. And we've got some more renderings on the second page. So this is kind of just another general overview of seeing some of the green space. This is Vespasian and Merle right here. And then here's kind of a street level view of Vespasian and Merle. So it's, I hope that was good. We've got a couple more renderings if you guys have questions that we can reference at a later time. But with that, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the chat function, and then I will individually call on you once you, or my colleague Chase is going to let us know when people have a question, and we'll unmute you. At that point, we'll allow you to ask your question, and we'll respond. I would kindly ask that you ask one question so that we allow a lot of people to participate. So just have your one question ready so we can respond to your question. So with that, please let us know in the chat box if you have a question. And Chase, let us know when there's people in the chat. Again, let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, Ms. Wiggins has a question. Ms. Wiggins, would you like to unmute and state your question, please?
Well, I have 2. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So will there be the opportunity for you guys to consider some solar panels to help with their utility bills?
So we have done solar panels at a development in Baton Rouge, actually. We can look into that. Honestly, we weren't initially considering that, but we can look into it.
And the balconies, will every unit have a balcony, or will there be selected?
Absolutely, every unit has a balcony. We want to make sure that people have access to the outdoors from their unit.
Okay.
Thank you. If you just have questions, just let us know and we can answer your questions.
looked at my phone. It wasn't picked up.
Well, are there any, does anyone have any questions? We'd love to hear your feedback. We can flip through the renderings to give you guys another.
Ms. Wiggins wants to know if we consider doubles instead of multi-story buildings.
So Ms. Wiggins, we did not consider doubles. The townhomes are kind of more of that function to kind of give the that option. So the townhomes would be 3-bedroom units as well.
Since nobody else have questions, I'm just curious. So you will have some townhomes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what
Yeah.
size bedrooms will those be?
Those will be, we haven't fully worked it out, but they'll be 3-bedroom units, probably around 2,000 square feet would be my guess.
Okay, so nice.
So pretty big.
Yeah, that's a good size. And I think one of the things we mentioned the last time we were on the calls was storage space. Because what we found at some of the properties was that the residents really didn't have a lot of that. And so it was forcing them to do some stuff the properties didn't want them to do in terms of how they store their bikes and those sort of things. Have y'all taken all of that into consideration?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. We'll have tons of bike racks across the site. I'm a cyclist myself, so I always think of other fellow cyclists as well. We'll have plenty of storage in the units in terms of closet space.
I want to ask Diane, and I think it was Diane who had some concerns with some of the stuff they did at Florida. If she would just mention it so we can make sure that it's covered on this property as well. If she's still on.
Yes, I'm here, Sam. Hello?
Yeah, you want to ask them about some of the problems or raise some of the issues y'all had at Florida after y'all moved in?
All right, about the storage part, we don't have anywhere for like storing bikes, barbecue grills, maybe some of the children play stuff, you know, because they don't want it on the porches or whatever. Are you, yeah, and that's why I sent probably asking that question, are you all gonna have storage space so they will be able to do things like that? Because apparently you all will have like bike areas, I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am. We'll have plenty of bike racks all across the site to have people to lock up their bikes.
Would they have storage outside each unit for them to store different things, enough for the store, you know, objects that they can't have inside?
So we haven't looked at that yet, honestly, for this particular site. Thank you for raising that question for the Florida site. But in terms of answering that question, all our units are pretty sizable. I think they're more sizable than the existing Florida development in terms of providing closet space. My colleague Chase has also reminded me that this presentation will be made public on Hanno's website afterwards, so people can review and share this presentation at a later date. Thank you for your question.
This is Deborah Joseph. Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
The little small, on the sketch that's on the screen, the 1, 2, 3, 4 objects that's directly in the front on the architectural screen what are those? Are those townhouses or what?
So, are you talking about right here?
Yes, those 4 objects.
Yes, those are townhomes. Yes, ma'am. So we're showing 12 townhomes right now.
Oh, so each one of those is a townhome and they're all connected? Yes,
ma'am. So they're townhomes in sets of 3.
Okay. And so it's a 3-story building with apartment. How many apartments per? Is it 8 apartments per floor, per building?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They're all 2 bedrooms, or 1 bedroom, or variety of?
It's a variety of 1s, 2s, and 3s. So again, we want to make sure that we're capturing what the community needs.
So 2 bedrooms might be under a 1 bedroom apartment. Is going to be intermingled on a building?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great
I
questions,
have
everyone.
one more question. When you saying about the 2 bedrooms probably be over the 1 bedroom, we asked these questions in the other meetings that we are having at some of the sites. Would this noise, you know, some people like a 1 bedroom, it would probably be a senior or someone with not a child. And when you have like kids over them, would they be soundproof or would they be able to hear them?
So we build extremely great units, and that goes back to the enterprise green standard that I mentioned earlier. So those are really very soundproof. I mean, obviously, if someone's wrestling on the floor, then you can hear that because kids wrestle. But your general how you would conversationally talk, no, that's not an issue. It'll be quiet.
So how would you, I'm going back to the part about the storage. How would you do storage for these upstairs units, these tall buildings?
So again, there's plenty of closet space in the units themselves.
Enough for a bike? They're gonna, you know, people are not gonna keep bikes inside their units, but I know, are the bike racks in front of the units, or they're in a certain area, like around the play
so
area?
they'll be around each building, so there'll be plenty of bike racks available for anyone that needs.
Oh, all right. So the tenants don't have to go around the corner. All right.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
Great question.
All right. Stop my road.
All right. Are there any more questions, folks?
I have one.
Okay.
Cheryl Carter. Why the 3 stories?
The 3 stories. So
Yeah,
that is to make the development feasible financially, honestly. But it also provides, again, a mix of units. So you don't want a whole lot of sameness. So it provides the variety of housing as well.
Because I know in the neighborhood, the previous neighborhood, there are still some apartments that haven't been torn down that were 3 stories, and I'm trying to see if you're trying to keep that up or something.
No, ma'am. This site is vacant.
Yeah, I know that site is vacant, but there's an area across the street from that site that had apartment buildings that were occupied pre-Katrina, and they are not anymore, but they're still there, and they are 3 stories. So I'm just trying to see if you got that idea from that or what.
No. I think those may be even taller, actually. And kind of what we're hoping is that, going back to the catalyzing economic development, I know that site is a little bit of not a little bit, it's a major eyesore for the neighborhood. So what our hope is that when we build this site, or when we start on this site, it kind of tells that landowner, or accuses that landowner, hey, he should sell, he should knock down, he should do something else. And so that's kind of our bigger hope for the area and the community.
Okay, so the green space and the parking areas, the bike rack, they're taking up the rest of the area in Christopher, where Christopher is, or previously was?
I'm not sure I follow.
The green spaces, that's taking up all the other area. Instead of you putting down some houses, you have them up. And so the rest of the space, you have all the space counted for, okay? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we're trying to leave plenty of time, or plenty of space for green space.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
This is,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry for asking so many questions, but I wasn't on y'all first meeting, and I just want to, how many ACC units would this have, or would they have any, and who will own this land?
So
Who
this
will,
land,
who will run these sites, manage this site?
so I'm gonna respond to that question very similar to how I did with the Florida development. This is going to be a site that is, again, owned by Hanno with a ground lease. And we will be managing with a third-party management company, Ladder and Blum. So they offer a different things that maybe Hanno doesn't. So they're a little bit more flexible with some of those questions, or some of those things that maybe are a little bit different under a Hanno lease. And there will be project-based vouchers, about 25% of the units. And then we are open to accepting any person that has a voucher as well.
I'm saying ACC units, that's public housing units, so it won't be no public housing units on this site?
So they're project-based voucher units, and we are accepting people that have a voucher, yes.
Project basis, not public housing, that's what I was just asking.
But he said he's accepting any voucher.
That's Section 8 vouchers, yeah, and he's saying project base.
Yes, I think he's saying both.
He said both of them.
Yeah, but it still doesn't cover
But
public
ACC
housing.
units is public housing units.
It still doesn't cover public housing.
Yeah.
Do people have questions about the design or feedback?
Yeah, I did. I'm curious, Josh, about one of the things we noted in some of the units that we have, in, like, say, the 3-bedroom units, the developer didn't really allow the residents to be able to have like a table and chairs in their kitchen area. It was only able to use like bar stools or whatever, so the kids had to sit at the bar. So I'm really curious to know what that square footage is going to look like in the kitchen area.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to know if you guys were going to be having, I know you're going to have wash and dryers, but is it inside the unit, or y'all have a laundry room that's assigned to the property, or what?
All great questions. So for our 3-bedroom units, those are going to be between 12 and 1,300 square feet. So more than enough space in the living area for a table, to accommodate a table. In terms of the washer and dryers, yes, every unit will have them in unit.
Oh, okay. And what, y'all going to provide them, or
Yes,
they'll
ma'am.
be able to bring their own?
We'll provide them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have a question. I had just joined the Zoom. I just want to know how soon you guys going to start development on the property, and when is the target date to finish?
It's a great question, ma'am. I will scroll back. I don't know if you can see my screen, but a very tentative timeline is to have a groundbreaking sometime in spring or summer of next year, and a grand opening, like construction completion, at the end of, I guess, 2022. So it's a long way off.
Ms. Hester, did you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I just had a couple of comments, and it looks like you guys have taken into consideration these comments I'm about to make. One of our board members, Vice President Barrios, mentioned that it's important to make sure that the site is pedestrian friendly, and also to work with the transit authority to make sure there's adequate transportation in the area, whereby people don't have to walk, like, you know, a country mile to get to the closest public transit stop. So those were two comments I wanted to make sure that you had. It looks like, you know, just based on your presentation, that you are considering those things as you design the project. So I thank you so much for that.
No, thank you. And yes, to reiterate, we are very much thinking of transit when we're designing these properties. There are transit lines along Wall Boulevard as well as Vespasian. So I mean, you literally just have to walk out your front door and you can find a transit line. And Councilmember Palmer has also asked that we connect with Relay Bikes to hopefully get a Relay Bike station on the site somewhere as well. And in terms of pedestrian safety and connectivity, there will be sidewalks throughout the development as well as around the exterior of the development that have both streetlights and pedestrian lights. So it'll feel very safe and walkable at all times of day and night.
And Joshua, just to echo what Ms. Diane said, which was about the storage. I really would like you guys to look at that, because that's a very valid point about the exterior storage, where people can put things in, you know, the areas like flammable items, like, you know, a lighter fluid, or, you know, charcoal briquettes or something like that. Okay. So that's something that really affects the quality of life for our families.
Okay.
And you know, I know that some of the management companies, when they come in, they have these strict rules, but those rules sometimes don't lend itself to, you know, some of the quality of life issues that our families like to enjoy. So if you all can really take a look at that and try to incorporate that into the design.
Certainly, yeah, we can take a long, hard look at it with our engineers. I know they're on the they're on the phone here, so we can circle back up with them after this meeting.
And then also the interior storage. I heard you mention that there would be adequate interior storage, and that the square footage seems like there's going to be a ton of space in these units. One of the common things that I see sometimes is that, you know, we have some storage spaces for coats and clothes and things like that, but there's no storage space for like vacuum cleaners or sweepers, or, you know, brooms and mops and buckets and things like that. So I'm sure that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I cut you off. Continue, please.
So if, you know, when you guys are designing the interior, if there could be dedicated space for those types of items, that would be appreciated.
Definitely. Yeah, we try to do that in all of our units, and so we'll make sure that that happens here as well. Are there any more comments or questions about the design? We're nearing the end of our 7 o'clock deadline, so I just want to be cognizant of people's time. So please ask your questions if you have one.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Donna Jonigan. Not so much about the design, but as y'all start the process, are y'all gonna look at using Section 3 and hiring some residents?
Yeah, so that's part of our agreement with Hanno, and so Hanno's looking out for you guys. We're going to make sure that we look out and we hire Section 3 as well as DBEs, and so we're going to make sure that we communicate with the city and Hanno in our contracting processes. So absolutely.
Okay, and I don't want to keep hanging on the storage, which I hear people are worried about, but when you look at 2 and 3 bedrooms, you're talking about family size units, and you have children that are pre-K, like from 4 to 10. When you talk about putting up bikes, would they be available for small children bikes? Or are they going to be able to store them, you know, in the house? Because I know the bike area is usually like bigger bikes, but we're talking about smaller children that have the tricycle and the smaller bikes.
Yeah, it's a great question. We haven't got into the nitty gritty of the actual bike rack design yet, but I can speak from our other properties that we've developed that I see plenty of kids' bicycles around those properties, both inside and outside the unit. So we'll be sure that we look into that detail to make sure that kids have bikes. And I know I used to love riding my bike as a little kid, so I want to make sure that other kids do as well.
Okay, one more question for you. Do the residents have to buy their own locks and stuff to make sure that the bikes are put there, you know, for safety, that, you know, nobody can take them, you know, take their bikes? Like, you know, there's always a problem with other kids taking other kids' bikes to ride and stuff. Are you going to provide the lock space, or do the residents have to provide their own locks to secure their bikes?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that before, honestly. So I would imagine that would be the tenant providing their own locks. Thank you. Are there any more questions?
No, my end, no. I think you covered everything so far.
Will there be another meeting?
Absolutely. So great question. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to take your feedback. We're going to look at it. We're going to try to apply it to our plan, and then we'll have one more community meeting at least, and then from there, that's when we start the permit process. So that meeting has yet to be set, but I imagine it'll probably be in about a month and a half, and we'll be sure that we send out notification and a similar process. I don't know how the COVID situation will be in a month and a half. I imagine it's not going to be too much better. So I would also venture to say this would be another virtual meeting when we do meet again. But yes, we will have another community meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming and for voicing your opinion. We really appreciate your feedback. Again, we want to be very open and honest and build to the standard that you guys want, because again, we want to be long-term partners in the community to build up Algiers. So we really appreciate it, and I guess we will adjourn, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.